Every day we wake up with a set of tasks in mind. Whether it's the basic 9-to-5 schedule, freelance business route, or even just taking a day to have fun and chill, our brains has some form of plan to execute daily goals and find ways to optimize day-to-day life or even learn something new. Take the micromanaging genre of video games. Typically, you are shown the basics with a tutorial and then are set loose to experiment, explore, and learn new things to make your operation as efficient as possible. Some games are as simple as managing a farm, some let you erect massive factories, or just find ways to click a cookie on a screen as many times as possible. Today we will be creating our own garden filled with bright papery critters in one of Rare's most underrated titles, Viva Piñata, Trouble in Paradise. Hello, I'm GalicEnder, and welcome to another episode of Ender's Archives, a show where I take beloved games from my past and see if they stand the test of time. Viva Piñata was my first micromanaging experience. I always found joy in collecting all my favorite piñatas and seeing how they interact with the environment. Going back to this title after so many years led me to having a brand new appreciation with how the game works and just how deep the mechanics can get. We will get to that later, but believe me when I say the devs spared no expense on just how deep this game can get. So let's grab our smashing sticks and break this game wide open. The history of the Viva Piñata franchise is an interesting one. In 2002, Rare co-founder Tim Stamper had conceptualized a garden simulator that could be played on home consoles and the Pocket PC. He wanted the game to revolve heavily around animals, but it needed to have a unique style that stood out from the rest. This eventually led to the idea of the animals being designed around piñatas, as piñatas were not only well known to the US and Mexico, but also the United Kingdom, and are loved for their bright, festive designs. Rare began working on a prototype for Nintendo, but when the company was bought out by Microsoft, development began towards the Xbox and then the 360, taking advantage of the console's more advanced hardware and graphics capabilities. On November 9th, 2006, the first title, Viva Piñata, launched for Xbox 360. The game was reviewed highly by critics for its engaging gameplay and vibrant color palette. Microsoft was so confident in this franchise that the game launched alongside a cartoon show that aired on 4Kids TV. With the release of the first game, Tim and lead project manager Greg Mabel saw that the final product was incomplete, as many assets and ideas were cut due to time constraints, which led the team to develop a sequel title. Viva Piñata, Trouble in Paradise was released on September 2nd, 2008, and offers a higher quality experience than its predecessor with the same amazing garden simulator gameplay, more mechanics, different areas to explore, and more piñatas to collect. This is the game we will be playing today, and the version I'll be playing will be the Rare Replay release on the Xbox One. Now let's see what Rare's final vision of Viva Piñata has in store. Booting up the game, we are greeted with a cutscene of Professor Pester and the Ruffians committing a classic case of breaking and entering in the most cartoony way possible. A ton of explosives. This turns out to be Piñata Central, the center that holds all the data for every piñata on the island. Turns out the ruffians aren't too tech savvy and they end up deleting all the files, leaving our red masked villain with nothing. And that's all the plot you're going to get. And guess what? It doesn't even matter. Not once in the 12 hours I spent playing this game has the contents of the beginning cutscene been addressed in any capacity. And what blows my mind is that the game gets away with it scot-free. Both Viva Piñata and Viva Piñata Trouble in Paradise were not designed to be a plot-heavy experience. It focuses on its gameplay loop alone of maintaining your garden and finding new ways to improve your land by rewarding you with new tools, plants to grow, shops to buy new items and optimize basic tasks, and the cream of the crop, introducing you to new piñatas to lure into your garden and become your new best friend. My favorite is the press tail, a fox piñata with a long snoot, bushy tail, and it can do a happy little dance. The compendium is massive with 98 different types of piñatas, each with its own style and vibrant color palette. The way you make these creatures your own is by making your garden appealing enough for them to want to stay. Each piñata has a set of requirements and they revolve around 3 stages. The first is the appearance requirements, the second is the visitor requirements, and the last is the resident requirements. It sounds complicated at first, but it's a lot easier than it looks, and you'll discover a majority of these requirements just by naturally playing the game and experimenting with different plants and piñatas you obtain. And you can always refresh what you need to know about a specific piñata by checking its info when it appears, or by referencing the game's encyclopedia located in the menu. Let's take the badge sickle for example. To make him appear, you will need to have a blackberry bush growing in your garden. You can obtain the seed for this plant either by talking with Seedos or buying it in the shop. More on them later. To have him visit your garden, you will have to have 3 geckis in your possession. And to have him as a resident, he will need to eat 2 of the blackberries off your bush and eat 1 of your geckis. Yes, sometimes to get a new piñata, you will have to sacrifice 1 of your own. Even for this brightly colored fantasy world, nature doesn't around, and that's just scratching the surface of this game's mechanics around piñatas. Let me, to the best of my ability, tell you all the crazy things you can do with these guys. Oh boy. To start off, let's talk about the sparrowmints and the buzzlegums. Yes, you can breed the piñatas. If you obtain 2 of the same species of piñata, you can fill out a new set of requirements appropriately named the romance requirements. First things first, you will need a house for them to do the romance dance, which is where our first helper Willy Builder comes in, who for a fee will build a house for any piñata of your choosing. Next will come the task you need to complete, and it varies for every piñata. For example, to breed these raw beans, I had to let them eat a biscotti, have 3 meters of snow on the ground, and have a house for them to do the dance. Once these requirements have been met, a heart will appear above their head, meaning that they are in romance mode. All we have to do now is guide them to one another, and the magic begins. In the form of a minigame. All you have to do is guide the piñata to their mate, and you win. To get extra points, you can pick up the heart tokens, but they're not required, so just go straight for it if you want to. Once that's done, we can finally get to the coup de grace. We can watch them perform the romance dance. Every piñata has a different dance, and they're all adorable. Wait, what did you think I meant by romance dance? Oh god! What is wrong with you? This is a kid's game, you sickos! After the dance, Storkus will come down from her roost and deliver a brightly colored egg that will eventually hatch into a small baby piñata. Aw, look at the little guy. Over time, they will form a cocoon and grow to regular size, and after that, you can basically do whatever you want with them. Like feed them to the snakes to fulfill their romance requirements. What? It's just nature. You can do more with your piñatas than just breed them. You can also change their physical appearance in many ways. To start off simply, you can dress them up by visiting the Paper Pals shop. You can select any piñata from your garden and dress them literally from head to toe with accessory items. Next is color variants. If you feed a piñata a certain item, it will change color. I fed my Candary a blue bellflower and it changed from yellow to blue. I even fed my Kitty Floss a lily flower, changing it to purple. Every piñata has 3 variants you can discover, so next time you grow a new plant, try feeding it to your favorite piñata and see what happens. Finally, there's evolutions. Yes, like Pokemon, they evolve too. It works very similar to discovering variants. When you feed a piñata a certain item, it will change into a brand new species. For example, feeding a Nougat a chili transforms it into a Salamango. Feeding a Prestail a bone transforms it into a Paina. God, these names are ridiculous. They're all candy puns. Seriously, writing this script, there's just nothing but like the little word corrections of the red line, and it's all because I had to make these candy puns for all the species. The layers this game has with its piñatas alone is insane, and we're still not done. Christ, eventually I have to get to the rest of the game. There are also sour piñatas. These devious little boys are piñatas corrupted by Professor Pester, tasked to cause a little bit of mayhem to your garden. When one enters your garden, their first mission is to lay poison candy. Candy that can cause your piñatas to get sick, and if not cured in time, can be destroyed by the Stardust. Some sour piñatas have bonus functions to keep you on your toes, like the sour crocodile can harass your garden's helpers, or the skunk can take your piñatas out of romance mode. There is hope for these angry piñatas, as they can be cured and become residents by following their requirements. By following their cure requirements, the sour piñata will put itself into a cocoon and hatch into its normal state, giving you a new friend and an addition to your Tower of Sour. A large totem pole that can be used to keep certain sour piñatas out of your garden. You can unlock these new totems by curing sour piñatas or by buying them at the store. Another thing you can do with the piñatas is travel to different environments to capture piñata types local to that area, or different versions of the same types you can find in your regular garden, like this snow version of the Prestail. Her name is Tootsie. You can travel to 2 locations, the Desert or the Pinarctic. Real creative there. And the way you bring these foreign piñatas home is by purchasing a trap and baiting it to what the piñata prefers. Once you capture it, it will be sent to the post office for you to pick up and unpack. From there, it's just a matter of completing its resident requirements to get it to stay. It will stay longer than a typical visitor, but it will eventually run away after a certain amount of time if you can't meet its requirements. Okay, I think I've discussed everything about piñatas. We can move on now. Oh wait, if you smack the serpent egg with a shovel right before it hatches, it becomes a twinger snap. And then, if you hit that piñata's egg, it turns into a four-headed snake. But that's a very tedious process, and I didn't feel like doing it. Okay, now I'm done. Okay, now that we've finished talking about the poster children of the game, we can talk about your abilities as head of the garden. When it comes to managing your garden, you are basically managing your own sandbox. You can modify it however you like, change the terrain, and even decorate it with houses or props you can purchase at the store. You are given a selection of tools that can be upgraded the more you play. You have your shovel, watering can, seed bag, terrain packets that consist of grass, sand, and snow, and the trick stick that really only pisses off your piñatas rather than make them do stuff. The shovel is your most valuable tool, as it can defend you from intruders, dig ponds at whatever size you wish, and smash unwanted seeds and plants. Also, it can uncover hidden treasure in your garden. I know the main appeal of your garden is to house your favorite piñatas, but there's actual gardening involved with the game as well. Seedos is a local helper who visits your garden twice a day. You can get 2 free seeds from him every time he visits. All you have to do is remember to stop and say hello. The seeds range from simple flowers to fully grown trees that grow produce. These plants not only attract new piñatas in the area, but it can also be used as a source of income. To make sure a plant is happy and healthy, you must make sure it's planted on the correct surface and watered regularly. Pro tip, digging a hole before planting a seed helps it grow faster. Next we have the townsfolk. They run shops and businesses that can help you with your garden. First we have Cost-A-Lot Store, the general store of the game. You can buy any current item you have unlocked, accessories for your garden, and upgrades for your tools. Then we have Willy Builder, who builds houses for your piñatas. Gretchen's Fetch'ems tracks down piñatas that you have already tamed if you want to skip the hassle of getting a new one. Arthur's Inn can be used to hire assistants that help maintain your garden. I hired a gatherling during this playthrough. She is supposed to gather excess fruits and sell them for me, but all she did was wander around, picked up my special items that I needed to complete certain tasks, and left the stuff she was supposed to pick up on the ground. So like any good boss, I call her a dumbass and smacked her with a shovel. Then there's Bart's Transmography. Bart can be hired to transform items in your garden into brand new objects that can be used to unlock new tasks for your piñatas. Finally, we have Langston, who can sell you traps for when you go capture piñatas in new environments, or give you challenges when you're back home. These challenges consist of finding a specific type of piñata, stuffing it full of its favorite foods, and then sending them to a birthday party, giving you a commission and XP. Getting experience in this game happens often. Every time you plant something new, you get XP. Every time you get a new visiting or resident piñata, boom, XP. Getting 2 piñatas to romance for the first time, bam, XP. With leveling up comes new tools and upgrades, different titles that unlock items in the shop, and land expansions allowing you to hold more piñatas and structures in your garden. Speaking of which, hitting the capacity of allowable objects in this game happens way too easily. It had me selling piñatas and plants way more often than I'd like to. I'm going to blame the hardware at the time, as there's a lot you can do, but only so much the 360 can handle. So I'm starting hashtag bring back Viva, because a modern version of this game sounds amazing to me, so subscribe and help me spread this on Twitter. Other cons I've found about this game are the hazards, being the ruffians and Professor Pester. The idea of them and how they function is not bad. It's just them and the sour piñatas combined can be a real handful. The more you level up, the more hazards get introduced, and if you don't tame these sour piñatas or find out how to get rid of the ruffians quick enough, they just swarm you constantly, like non-stop. By themselves, the ruffians don't really do much. They just lay poisonous candy and mess up your landscape. Occasionally, they'll uppercut one of your structures too. But when you get 4 of them at a time, combined with Professor Pester, and 4 sour piñatas on top of that, it's overwhelming and can cause serious damage that you could potentially not recover from. It's not bad if you keep up with taming the sour piñatas, but there was a time I was struggling to keep my garden afloat. And Pester is the worst. There is no way to get rid of him without glitching, and what he does is target your valuable piñatas, then smashes them and leaves. The only way to get him to stop is by paying him $500, and that's if you notice him. He has loud footsteps, but that's his only notifier. Other than that, good luck. The ruffian system isn't a bad idea. Having hazard mechanics is a good way to keep a player on their toes. It's just way too overwhelming in its current state, and it needs to be adjusted so it doesn't pin the player in an inescapable situation. My last issue with the game is a gray area, and that's just how deep this game can get. Don't get me wrong, the number of things you can do with piñatas in this game is admirable. It's just without a guide, how the hell are you gonna figure most of this stuff out? And this is the more advanced stuff like evolutions and defense mechanics. Variants and figuring out how to summon new piñatas is fine. Just play the game and plant every seed you get to discover new things. But stuff like the Twinger Snap and finding out that you need buzzle gums to scare off the first wave of ruffians, I had no idea these were things until I started diving into the game's wiki. I know Leafos can drop nuggets of information every now and then, but that's if you get lucky. This isn't the worst issue, and with enough time and experimentation, you could probably figure out most of the hidden details just by playing the game. But that could take an obscene amount of time if you just play the regular mode, which is the perfect segue for me to talk about Just for Fun mode. Just for Fun mode is a game mode that plays very similar to the original Garden mode, only now you have every item and tool at your disposal, all the money you could ever want, and say goodbye to those resident and romance requirements. Now all you have to do is lure those poor in, and they're instantly given a strong case of Stockholm Syndrome. This is a great mode that allows you to be exposed to everything the game has to offer, while being exposed to rare piñatas to inspire you to work towards finding and obtaining said piñatas naturally in your traditional garden. It's like if a cheat code was its own game mode. Moving on to the more technical side of things, the game's controls and UI are genius. Everything from the town and tools are subdivided into menus that can be quickly accessed. Every option is color-coded, and certain functions like selling can be quickly accessed by button commands. Not only can you access tools from the menu, but also via directional inputs from the D-pad, optimizing swapping between tools on the fly. It's simplicity and efficiency at its finest, and I love it. Viva Piñata Trouble in Paradise truly is the successor of a sequel to a beloved game that I unfortunately don't hear enough about. Maybe because it was developed in the downfall years of Rare when it was purchased by Microsoft, but with how bright and colorful the game is, along with its unique take on the micromanagement genre, this game truly is a diamond in the rough. The only thing it has going against it is its age. This was a time where balancing patches were not really a thing, so changes couldn't be made to balance certain features or fix bugs like textures suddenly going out. Oh god, Lottie, what happened to you? I really hope Rare decides to reinvent this title again, adding more features and quality of life patches, bringing out the full potential of this franchise. I'm serious. Everyone who watches this video, please @Rare on Twitter and ask them for the return of Viva Piñata. But just in case that doesn't happen, I highly recommend that you give this game a try and just vibe out with your papery pals. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, which I can confirm will be Game Bracket, featuring roguelites, as that's what you all voted for in the poll. Thank you so much for that participation. See ya, guys. And just like that, you have made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching this all the way through. It really means a lot to me. This was probably one of the more difficult videos I've made because holy crap, Viva Piñata had so much to talk about, and I made this video while I was moving, so constantly having to undo my setup and then set it all back up while trying to deal with limited factors like me not having my green screen and cameras available at the time, it challenged me to adapt a new editing style, which is the use of Gallic, my avatar, to take my place when I couldn't do my green screen segments, while also just making do with what I had. Like, some of the setups I had to do to just get some footage were so ratchet, but I got it to work. And I feel pretty proud of this one. I feel good, but also just, man, trying to keep the motivation alive to make this video was also a bit of a struggle, but I just kept myself going. I told myself, just gotta keep going, keep doing it. If you're doing what you love, eventually it'll pay off. So that's what I'm doing, and I can say that now that this video's done, I really like it, and I hope you do as well. I'm sorry that it's not episode 2 of Game Bracket, but I can tell you now, that's the primary project and focus. So hopefully in about 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have a new episode out, as well as the top 10 games of 2022. This has been a crazy good year for video games, by the way. Oh my god. We got some bangers. We got Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok. I played some amazing indie games like Nightmare Reaper. It's another like Turbo Overkill. That was a good one. You'll see them more in great detail, or not. Who knows? I probably spoiled about a good quarter of that video, so you know, well, I guess it is what it is. But thank you again, and I will see you all soon in the next video. Oh, and one more question. I wanted to start live streaming again, and I wanted to know if you guys would be down with that. So the real ones who make it all the way to the end will answer that, hopefully. So, yeah, what would you like to see live streamed? Okay, and with that, now I'm done. Thank you again, guys. See ya!